Welcome to Planting Joy Garden. It is a lovely 50-degree day, and there are signs of spring. We have officially reached our spring equinox, so that means we have 12 hours of daylight. Yay! So I'm going to start planting. Now, I have not reached my last frost. That won't happen for another 5 weeks. But because I have bunching onions coming up, I'm seeing my crocuses, I'm seeing my daffodils. It's telling me that the soil temperatures are around 45 to 50 degrees. So there's a lot of things I can plant right now. So I'm going to thicken out my bunching onions by planting some Tokyo long bunching onions. I'm going to plant some carrots in this area here. I'm also going to do a little line of radishes. Now, I'm not going to plant 100 radishes because I can't eat 100 radishes. So I will be planting small patches of bunching onions, carrots, radishes, and even spinach. I'll be doing weekly to every 2 week sowings. Okay, so we just had an amazing rainfall. So this is absolutely the best time. So I'm starting with wet soil, and I'm going to start off by planting or sowing organic carrot seeds. These are the short and sweet. Carrot seeds are sown at about an eighth of an inch. I'm going to make some depressions. I do not want 400 carrots at a time. So I'm going to sow them sparsely if possible. So here we go. And as you can see, these are very tiny seeds. And you generally will sow your seeds twice the size or twice the depth of the actual seed. Now, carrot seeds can be sown a little densely because they are notorious for poor germination, but you can improve germination by now sowing them too deeply. Also, making sure you sow into very, very moist soil and covering them. So I'll do a few more just to make sure. And of course, as this is a rainy day, you want to make sure you keep your seeds dry at all times, so don't sit them on a wet surface. And as I mentioned, because I don't want 400 carrots at one particular time, I will definitely do succession sowing. So I'm putting some in this week, and I will probably in another 2 weeks plant additional carrots. So I'm just pushing the soil over. We only need an eighth of an inch of coverage for these. Don't want to sow them too deeply. I will be covering this area with a board, and I will be watering my cardboard on a regular basis. So now we have the carrots sown. Next up, I will be doing some early scarlet globe radishes, the nice round radishes. I'm going to plant a little row here for this week. In 2 weeks, I will plant additional. Let me show you the size of the seeds. Okay, so these are slightly larger. Just a little bit larger than the others. So I will be planting these at about a 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch, my first knuckle is an inch. Halfway is an half inch. Half my nail is a 1/4 inch. And radishes can be sown quite densely. And I'm basically making dimples. So you can always sow them heavy and thin them. And they may not all germinate. So I could, make it a little bit more dense. If you thin them, you cannot pull them. You need to clip them because it is a root vegetable. Yeah, there's room for that one. All right. Let's get these all sown. It's taking a few minutes in the garden. Get these taken care of. Okay, and radishes, particularly this type, the red globes and the breakfast radishes, they're generally ready for harvest in about 25 to 30 days. Other kinds of radishes may need up to 50 days, but what I'm planting today are readily available. I'm almost tempted to cover my radishes, not so much that they need it, but because I have a serious squirrel problem. Okay, so the radishes are planted. And now for some bunching onions. And so what I'm going to do with the bunching onions is I'm just going to kind of stick them in between the clumps that I have here, just to kind of thicken this stand of bunching onions. Here are the seeds. They're about the size of a radish seed. So a quarter of an inch so that the seeds are at the depth that's twice their actual size. So I'll put a little clump here, about a quarter inch, and I'll just pinch and sprinkle a little clump here. I'm just trying to fill out my stand. Put a little clump here and a little clump here. Okay, so that's for the bunching onions. I'm also going to put a little bit right here. And as you'll notice, there's a slope. So the soil is high on one side and very low on the other. I didn't want to mess with the depth of the soil for those that have, grown back for the season. I'm also going to add some gourmet blend, which has all kinds of radishes in here. And so I'm going to actually sow it in that container there, just to ensure that I get a radish harvest because I do have a squirrel problem. So we'll plant those. And so I'll just make quick little drills in this very moist soil. And so I'm actually only planting up one bed today. And the reason I'm doing this container as opposed to planting it directly in the soil underneath is because I know I have a squirrel problem, especially at this time of year. So I can actually move this up a rung to keep the squirrels out. But in the future, this will be a spot for squash, and this other trellis will be for tomatoes, some sort of indeterminate tomato. I haven't decided. Okay, nice size seeds, so it should be easy to sow these. And I'm going to be deliberate with my spacing because the seeds are definitely big enough to space. I don't want to risk freezing a water line. So all I'm going to do is manage this with a watering can. Okay, so everything has been placed in. Pretty much everything here should germinate in 7 to 10 days. Now the last thing we'll do is the spinach. Okay, so now I will be sowing some spinach, and spinach is a nice size seed. Generally, spinach will germinate in temperatures as low as 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and because of the size of the seeds, it can be sown at a half inch of depth. So we'll put these in my hand. So I want to kind of empty out this packet. So here are the seeds. Whoops, if you can, I don't know if you can see them, but I'll grab them this way. Here are the seeds. And what I do is just kind of sprinkle them all over with no rhyme or reason. Just kind of sprinkle them. Let's get some more. Oftentimes people will say spinach is notorious for poor germination, and that's mostly because it prefers cooler temperatures and it doesn't really like to germinate in really warm soil. So here's my seeds, and I just kind of sprinkle it like you would sprinkle salt on food or your fixins on a pizza. You just kind of sprinkle them. Some of the spinach leaves I like to eat as baby spinach, and others I might allow to grow to maturity. So you kind of thin it as you eat it. So I try to sprinkle it all over. And because I'm working with an older seed pack and a newer seed pack, I'm going to sprinkle extra in this section because the first package were older seeds. Okay. And all I'm simply going to do is just brush the soil over. So I kind of piled my soil up towards the edges. So I'm sure to kind of cover up the seeds. Then I'll pat it down just to make sure we have good soil to seed contact. Now the thing with spinach, because it is a nice hard seed, it can sit for a while. So we've planted out the spinach and it should germinate in 7 to 10 days. So I just want to take you around to see what's going on. I do have strawberries that are waking up, which can suggest that our soil temperatures are warming up. Another indication of spring. The sage is starting to reemerge. So that's another indicator that my soil temperatures are climbing. The bunch and onions are up. And let me just take you into this area and my herbs. My thyme here is truly flushing out, which means that my soil temperatures have to be above 40 degrees. And my chive. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Get out and sow something today. Have an amazing day.